Hi, I'm Belinda Fenty.
And I'm Pauline Nikiria.
Welcome to Let's React podcast, the podcast that amplifies the voices of artists from underrepresented backgrounds in the UK and beyond.
Yeah, we'll share our experiences, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. From addressing underrepresentation
to celebrating diverse, rich stories.
Join us on this journey as we react to the world around us and inspire change in the industry. Hey, Belinda, how are you, love?
Hi, Pauline, love. I am splendid.
Good. I'm good, thank you. I am feeling great because my boot came off last week, and yeah, so I'm able to do stuff. And honestly, I feel like a go-getter this week.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
Oh,
honestly.
fun.
Yeah. It's still like I still have like the moments I forget that I don't like phantom boot, so like I still think I've got the boot
Oh,
on.
yeah.
And so because my leg has been in that position for almost 2.5 months, basically, yeah, 2.5 months, I feel like when I walk, I still limp. Even though like I
Yes,
was doing
that makes sense.
exercises slowly before they took the boot off because I didn't want to just go in. Like I started doing some exercises a week before, and I just didn't want to go in without at least a bit of, flexing my ankles and just, well,
Mhm.
stretching it mostly just to get mobility back.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then but it just felt good because like suddenly I'm like, oh, I can drive again. I can uh walk. I mean, not as fast still. It's like freedom. So yeah, so it's been great like that in that sense. So yeah, it's been
What
good.
a blessing.
Yeah.
Because we all want juicy acting roles, etc. But if you don't have your health, none of that's going to mean anything to you. So it is definitely health number one.
Yeah.
And I love that. Ah, did you
Yeah.
celebrate?
Not really actually. A friend of mine was like asking me if I wanted to do prosecco and celebrate
Yeah.
my bootleg day coming off. Whatever. But I think I was just more like, I'm just glad I'm getting on with things. I'm doing stuff, and
Yeah.
yeah, and because I couldn't do auditions as well, like especially in-person auditions, I couldn't really tape for stuff because if it was filming and I need to move, so I was more or less on sabbatical in a way, and
Mhm.
I had to just do maybe like I didn't even get to do audio stuff, but it was over Christmas anyway, so it kind of worked out in a way when things are quieting down.
Yeah. Well timed.
Yeah.
Timed injury.
Definitely. But no, I had a few takes to do and I managed to do them. One was for a
Well
theatre
done.
production and another one for short film. So it was nice. It was nice to just be like, oh yeah, I can walk again. So yes, I can do it. So
Wow. And you jumped straight into the fire. So as soon as it came off, you had two auditions at once.
yes. So it was nice and a couple of availability checks, which has been really nice. So yeah, no, it's been nice to just suddenly feel like I have this freedom again to do stuff, you know? Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, no, that's how I've
I
been.
love it. I love it.
Oh, I
Um,
love your top, by the way.
oh, thank you.
Yeah.
My update for since I spoke to you last is Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare has been released in the States. And yeah, it had its 1 week release.
Mm.
It's going really well. I wanted to go and be there at the premiere, but I'm actually glad that I didn't because that was going to be in LA.
Oh,
So, although the screenings aren't where it all is, I mean, just to be in that atmosphere and to be going there around this time of year with the fires
yeah.
and I guess the anxiety as well that it probably would have given my family, me going out where the fires are, even though you're like, look, I'm not
Mm.
going to go in those areas. Yeah, has all been avoided by me not going. So, and also it would have felt a bit weird trying to meet American like representation managers, etc., producers out there at that time when there are other things on their mind.
Yeah, yeah,
They go,
definitely.
I'm in LA, I'd love to meet you. Have you seen the news? Yeah. So yeah, it all has worked out, which is
Yeah.
great.
And so did the premiere still go on?
It did, yeah, because it had nationwide release. So yeah, it still went on across the country. The number of cinemas that it's been shown in is unreal. I've seen the Excel spreadsheet, and you're scrolling and you're scrolling and you're scrolling, and there's because it's so vast, it's literally being released at thousands of cinemas across the states, which is really exciting.
Yes, that is sounds so exciting. I'm so excited for you. That's
Yeah, the
brilliant.
actual premiere in actual the London premiere is soon, but it's just more of a screening. It's not. I don't know if it's going to get UK cinema release or not. I
Okay.
think we'll see. But
Mm.
yeah, the premiere is very soon. So I've not seen the full film. I didn't see it until 29th of January.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Ooh, that is exciting still.
It is. Yeah. It
Yeah.
is exciting.
Oh,
And
congrats,
it's amazing how
Belinda.
people get it. Thank you very much. It's
Oh,
amazing how fanatical the horror fans are. Because
mm.
I've seen like a TikTok fan video already, and it's like, I've got a small role. And yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. Oh, well, we're looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Do you know when? Well, obviously, if it's now in America, but yeah, it'd be awesome if they release it here in the UK, kind of in like an official way. That would be awesome.
I hope so. Because
Hmm.
it's weird it's being released in Australia, in the Netherlands, but UK where it was made. We're not sure yet. But yeah, we'll see. You have picked a very interesting theme for this month, this week, actually. Would you like to introduce our audience to the theme of today's podcast?
Yes, yes, today's theme is all about stage to screen, and we're just basically talking about plays, a couple of plays that we have, some of which we have seen, and how we think, they'll translate to screen, really. I think that'll be a great idea. Or just, a little bit of reflecting on that and how what we thought of the plays. And as you know, we're kind of focusing more onto reflecting on a representation, but also how we connect to stories and things like that. So, yes, so
Yeah.
that's what we'll be looking at today.
Now, I'm going to say something controversial.
Oh, love it.
I think oftentimes
Hmm.
plays don't translate to screen. Not all the time, of course, like sometimes it works, but I'll give you an example, and I'm so sorry to the amazing actors in these films. I'm so, so sorry. Please, don't. I really actually want to work with you, but it's not you.
It's not
Okay, it's not
you.
you.
Yes, it's the
It's
production.
the film or play. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fences.
Ah, fences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously the emotional stakes are incredible, the
Mm,
acting, the dynamics.
mm,
But some plays clearly, when they're set in one place or
mm,
predominantly in one place, you're not making use of a very visual medium,
mm.
and it becomes talking heads on screen quite
Right.
often when you put a play into film. Whereas what I enjoy about film is the storytelling that goes beyond the words. And it's the storytelling that comes not only from these, the close-ups and being able to see the emotional landscape of the actors, but also from showing the lighting, showing the little insect buzzing away on the window, showing these details. It's just so visual.
Mm,
Often it's wasted on some plays that are very talky, 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 talky,
mhm.
which they have to be in a theatre to
Yes.
engage people.
Yes.
On screen, it can be quite like exhausting. I'm like, yeah, I didn't.
Yeah. Do you reckon like maybe it's also about how they engage with the visuals? So you know how sometimes it could be voices of something showing like if like you're talking about like the close-ups of little things around the room, for example, where it's set. And you know how usually we have the stage directions that give you where it's set and all these things, but because we don't get to read that bit, that side of things in the stage directions, and it's just there and we just sat in a space, sometimes the curtain's already up so we can see the stage. Um,
Yeah,
and so it allows us to look at all these moments. And do you think that that is lost? So what you're saying is that is lost in translation when the play starts, when they start talking, because the characters are talking a lot because it's like not wordy, but it's more conversational. You lose all those little aspects of it. So it just becomes like a thing you're just watching like for hours, like a long. Is that what you mean? Like, so it just doesn't
I
feel.
think somewhat. I guess what I'd say overall about theatre, unless it's something a little bit different, like with physical theatre, dance, music. There's very rarely silence on stage, and when there is silence, it's to make a point often. It will maybe say it in the script, or it'll be a moment. And actually, in rehearsals, if you incorporate too many pregnant pauses or silences, often the directors want that gone.
Mm.
So, like, the way our theatre is set up is to be talky, 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 relentless, right? That's how our theatre is set up. I've never seen them try to do theatre in the way that you can do with film, where you can have less of that. But you can only do that with film because you can focus in on things which you can't focus in on stage. On stage, you have few tools. You have maybe a set that changes a couple of times, unless it's basic and blocks and moving constantly, or you have the lighting and the sound and some smoke. But screen, you have where you zoom the lens, you
Right.
have amazing different landscapes. It's so you have all of these tools, but you don't have those tools in stage. So I think maybe that's why with stage they have to do talky, 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 talky.
Hmm.
So in a way, I'm kind of saying, yeah, that I find them often not translatable unless you change them. And when I say change them, I mean like Romeo and Juliet. We've
Yes.
seen that film, we've seen that done incredibly.
Yeah.
But that's because they've really used the medium well, and
Mm.
they've used the colors and the dressings and the areas and the
Hmm.
yeah. So it can be done, but I've seen where it's blocked.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. What about you? Yeah, I'm
um,
curious what your take.
yeah, so like for me, yeah, like no, I get what you're saying because you do lose, it's like lost in translation of things that you get to experience on stage. And there's something about live experiences that you don't get to feel when you watch something on screen. And that
Yeah,
is always kind of, yeah, like you said, it's a hit and miss. So it depends on what it is you're watching. And in terms of translation, like something I've watched that has been on stage and then on screen. I should have actually thought about this properly because it's been a while since I've seen stuff, I guess, in terms of like stuff that has been translated from stage to screen. So, like, yeah, I hear you on fences. I hear you on fences. And I'm just trying to think, like, here in the UK, like something that probably the TV show Chewing Gum by Michaela Cole, because that was a one-woman show and I never got to see the show itself, but I've seen clips of it online. And not even clips of it. There's actually, I think, a full recording of it.
oh, nice.
Then, yeah, and then seeing the show on TV, I think that, but because it's Michaela Cole, she's probably sat down and planned it properly. And that kind of translated well for me because now the voices that she was speaking of
Oh,
as
you get to see
she
them.
yes, so you get to see them and you now have a
Yeah,
picture of them. And she's
nice.
still narrating what she's going through,
Yeah,
but it's more now like you can now see the images of the life, like it's like a window
yeah,
now. So then that's when I think that's when it's been used well
yeah,
because
definitely.
she plays multiple characters on stage and now then you suddenly see them for yourself and you're just like, oh yeah,
Mm.
I see it now. Like it becomes, it translates
I'd
better.
like to see the stage version. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, but I
yeah.
think you can see
And
it
of course,
online.
Fleabag, and in terms
Yes,
of film,
Fleabag. Yeah.
Barney, I loved. That's where of course, I'm not saying it doesn't work, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
sometimes.
no. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's when it's worked. That's what we're trying to say. It's
yeah,
that's when it's
exactly.
worked because you're able to see how because the I think it's great when it's like one person show, kind of if now we're talking about it, like then we're already hearing that one person talking, and then when they're narrating it on TV or screen, we then get to see the voices that they're talking about, the people, the characters, and we're then
Yeah.
able to connect the stories together and see the picture of it. So
That's so interesting. Yeah.
yeah. Whereas where it is obviously multiple characters and unless they've adapted it in a way that they cut out maybe a few lines here and there, which are then translated into maybe moving image or like a still or something like that, then
Mhm.
we're able to get into that, like you're saying, like the Shakespearean plays like Romeo and Juliet, and or when they adapt it for a modern audience, like Taming of the Shrew was, 10 Things I Hate About You was Taming of
Oh
the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think when they adapt it into a setting that you recognize
Yeah.
versus trying to direct translate it, if that makes sense,
Yeah, it does make
it
sense.
changes how you experience it, I suppose, because when it's written, it's for the stage. So
Yeah.
how can we make that into real life in a way?
Yeah.
I guess the translation helps in that way. If it's
Hmm.
translated into like a present day thing, like I was saying,
Yeah.
it's about you. Because a lot of Shakespeare plays are teen dramas, let's be real. You know what I mean? Like She's All That, which was it, is it She's All That or what was it? The one with that was Twelfth Night
Can't
with
remember.
Amanda Byne and Channing
Yeah.
Tatum, and she becomes her brother Sebastian in boarding school, and then she goes off, and yeah, so like it is seeing how like that translates, like Empire is based on King Lear, the TV show.
Aye.
Yeah, so when it's taken, if it's adapted and taken into, like, say, the present, shall we say, if it's especially like if it's an old play or whatever, it just makes it much more relatable. I think that's when it can translate well because
Yeah,
you're
I love
adapting
that.
it into, you know,
Yes.
people
And maybe
recognize it
that's
more.
what went wrong for me with fences. Sorry, sorry,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, yeah. Go on with fences. Yeah, no, of course.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I would love, of course, I would lo have loved to have loved it, but
Yeah.
actually, it was very much like you would imagine the play. Haven't
Mm,
seen the play, but that's how it was dressed and staged. And I, I don't know whether they cut much dialogue, whereas if you were translating it to film in a way that
mm,
I would like, you probably would strip a lot of the dialogue away because
mm-hmm.
there's so much story you can tell
Yeah,
with the music, with the with
yeah,
moments
yeah.
how dinner plate. Yeah, with
Mm.
so that's interesting. I
Yeah,
like that.
because there are pl films that are set in one space, in one room, in one
Yeah,
thing.
like Carnage, that's why I thought of it, which I really
Oh
liked
yes, yeah. Yeah, Carnage was
actually.
actually good. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's true.
Can
So
work.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just how it's done. Because also it's who they've cast in that, and then how much of that does the director want to show, or because if they're going to do it word for word, it doesn't, like you said, it has to be written or adapted in a way that makes it work. So maybe also if you have these big stars or big actors, like there's a big carrot, this is a big play, and this is you got all these stars, you have to feed into the idea that it's gonna be like exactly how you experienced it on stage. I mean, I know they did it together on stage as well, so it's like, is it
Yeah,
wanting that experience of having to take it from the stage? Now let's take it to film and let's do it like we did it on stage. You think there's
yeah,
all
I get you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. It's a really
yeah.
good point. Yeah, I was going to ask you if there were any plays that you think should be converted into screen.
Yeah, so I went to see Four Black Boys Who Have Considered Suicide When the Hue Gets Heavy. It's a very long title, but it is literally as it says on the tin. I think that if it's done right, I think it'll be a good script, but I think more not a film, more like a TV show. I think with
Oh,
TV shows, it breaks it down better because when you have episodes, you kind of focus on certain things versus when it's a film and you're trying to cover everything. Does that make
mm,
sense? Because with a film, a lot of the time it feels like there's a rush to get to cover everything, and it's impossible to cover everything, especially if it's such a detailed play, or do you know what I mean? If it's because it's a series of, so the play itself, with for any of the listeners who haven't seen it or have heard about it, it's different characters are being played. So these boys are sat together and they're telling stories of their experiences about life and things that have affected them, especially mentally, and trying to figure out their identity as young black men in a world that is mixed and all these things happening around them. And being first generation, say, immigrant family, or second generation, even second generation immigrant family, but how are they adapting to the world around them versus what they expect it to be? So what they expect it to be and versus what they're supposed to be in the present world that they live in versus where their parents or their family or ancestors grew up. or come from. So I think that as a TV show, it would work better versus a film because it will focus on, like, say, the stories. I feel like there's a chance to, even if it's like, say, two stories an episode or three stories, that way it's not trying to get everything all at once. And yeah, the reason why I think it would work that way is because it just means that people can then focus and see the stories better and again build that idea of the vision of what that story was and what made them feel that way than just like a wish-washy like oh okay okay, let's move on next.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a great adaptation to screen, but mainly on TV than as a film. What about you,
Mm.
or what are your thoughts on that as well?
Yeah. Well, interestingly, so I also saw the play, loved it, gave it a standing ovation. I think that I would love to see a film version of it.
Okay.
The reason being, for me, a lot of the beauty and touching elements of the play for me, well, one of the main elements was the connection between the men telling their stories, the connection that they got as a result of sharing
Hmm.
their experiences with each other. I
Hmm.
got a real sense within that ensemble of connection and support and brotherhood and yeah, and I feel like in a film version, I would see men who maybe are arguing, don't think they have much in common, who start to share their stories and through the sharing of the stories, find find the love and the connection and a moment of understanding. Yeah, and I sort of I would be interested in seeing how it would work as a film,
Yeah,
and I think it really could. The nuance of the story being told will be different to as a TV show. They'll be accomplishing different things,
true.
but I think both could be fantastic. And the film, I can imagine a really beautiful version of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You actually made me even think about what was it called? Uh Four Colored Girls. I know it's an American play, but Four Colored Girls was a play. There was a stage version of it, and then it was Tyler Perry made it into a film many years ago. And I never saw the play, but I've read it, and I think that as a film, it was very ambitious. I think that's why I would love to see for Black Boys who've considered suicide when the hue gets heavy to be a TV show because I think when I saw because it's not the same, but it's got similar themes in terms of mental health and you
Mm.
know domestic violence and the topics it talks about. And I think that the reason why it was fine as a film, don't get me wrong, but I feel like it rushed those stories because I guess maybe I like to hover on the characters,
Yeah.
like the moment of the things that they're going through. I want to allow for that moment because, like, when you read the play, because you're reading it, but you can hear the pain as they're talking about it versus with the film where it just a lot of it was translated into like like we're talking about into shots or images of something happening versus them talking about it, if that makes sense. So maybe it could have been done where as the images are happening, the characters talking about that
Yeah.
moment so that you start to see those images. Maybe that could have made it different.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but it just felt like the words were replaced with images. Yes, I know, like, a picture can speak 1,000 words, but when you're telling such a deep story, it feels rushed if it's just images and there's no words connected to it, if that makes sense. I suppose
Yeah.
it's that thing where you were saying if it's very wordy, they took out things and put images instead. But I think for certain stories, I feel like maybe it is a story actually, a story thing. For certain stories, there's moments where it has to be you hear the voices of the characters while they're speaking
Yeah.
something versus where it's just if it's the same thing happening where they're arguing about something, going through something. But I guess it's maybe because when there's multiple characters, that's when I want to hear the voices versus when it's one voice or two. Because like I was saying with the one woman show, you're hearing a lot of voices by one person, and then when it's put on screen, there's now you can see the voices that they were talking about. And then when you're having multiple stories being told on stage, I guess I want to hear those voices now. Oh, it's hard, isn't
It
it?
sounds like the opposite, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So basically, it's like, okay, a one-woman show. I like to see the characters that she's talking about. An ensemble piece, I want to hear the individual stories of each character. Yeah, but I get both. I get what you're saying both ways
Yeah.
around, even if they seem to contradict.
Yeah.
Uh, the benefit of your TV series version
Mm.
of For Colour Boys is, for me, the benefit is that it could have more ability to remain in the zeitgeist. Like a lot of people could watch it and really become familiar with things that Black people experience
Mhm.
in a more immersive way. With a film gets released, people kind of talk about it for 2 minutes and then it disappears,
That's
kind of
yeah,
thing.
it
But
goes in.
it seems to be, yeah, something that is discussed more and shared more. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe that's what it is as well too. That does always help to keep the conversation going. And with episodes, you can break down like the title of the episode. So if someone doesn't want to see something, some part of it, they can just go to that part and just watch that part. And because I guess a lot of the stories, even though they don't need to be fully connected, I mean, they come back to stories and they continue the narrative. But it just means that obviously, depending on the trauma of somebody and what they've gone through, what they've been through, whether it triggers something, it just, I feel like it is more of a journey in the film, in the series. Whereas with the film, it's like bam. I know you can experience it slower, you can get it, you get to feel it, but I feel there's more time to process it in as a TV show. Maybe that's what it is as well. It's the time to process what you're seeing. Um,
Yeah. The characters kind of become, because of that extra time that you're talking about to process, the characters have more chance of becoming a friend,
yeah.
someone because you've sort of
Yeah.
spent a long time with each one.
Yes.
Yeah, someone, yeah. So then maybe then when things happen, they can impact you more. That's a bit harder sometimes in the film because you might just know a little one side of them and not deeply have gotten had that journey with them.
Mm. Yeah, I guess yeah, because a lot of the time when with film, because I think I've watched a lot of adaptations that are terrible with film, that and this is not even just stage, but also like books and stuff, which we can talk about another time. But I feel like a lot of adaptations that are done are just usually not that great, and there's a lot that is missed, and there's a lot that isn't covered that it just becomes like, like. But then I guess some people do enjoy just if they've never read the books, for example, if they've never seen the play or read the play they just see it for what it is and they just that's what they take from it. But I feel like there's so much more that they can take. I feel like I want them to be connected even deeper and be like, "Argh." Just
Yeah, exactly.
knowing.
Which is a good argument for making plays into film.
Yeah.
Because yeah, one example, Nine Night, which I absolutely loved. So Nine Night is basically a play that's about the grieving process of 9 nights after someone in a Jamaican family dies. And you see the family dynamics around this central death there on stage, and it's riveting. And it was great to see something that I'm familiar with
Mm.
culturally on stage. I love that. But I would love that to be sh only a few people get to see it in the theatre. So
Yeah.
if you make it into a film or into a series, then other people get to enjoy these important
Mm.
stories, the way another culture grieves and see the bits that unite us as human beings as well. And yeah, so I would love to see that being made into.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, because I can imagine experiencing like in the sections of the film, if it's a film, like the each night telling that story and then the aftermath of that, and then you know what it continues, like you're saying about the dynamics and how that connects and builds towards it. That would be awesome. So yeah, there's a lot to be said about stage to screen. I mean, obviously we haven't covered everything, but I think it's just realizing that there's things that can work and there's things that just don't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's appreciating that if it works, it's really good, and when it doesn't, it's like, oh no, don't do that.
You ruined it. Just
Yeah, I love that talking about that. And I'm looking forward when we talk about the books to screen.
yeah.
Yeah, because that's usually like stuff that's done a lot more because I guess it's easy to get the rights to books and that because you can easily get the writers involved in the productions. Whether
Yeah,
it's
there just are so many amazing books, right? So people often, yeah, want to see it on
yeah,
film. And also the books create a fuller, more visual images than a play,
Mm,
because obviously that they rely on it. They need to build the picture in the reader's
mm,
mind, whereas stage writing can be quite sparse,
mm.
especially cool, funky, modern texts often. There can be minimal stage directions or descriptions. It can
Yeah,
just literally be words and hyphens, and then the theatre company can make of it whatever they will, the director can make of it.
yes. True.
Books tend to be really detailed, and visual anyway, so it lends itself really well to being
Yeah.
conveyed on
And
screen.
I
Yeah.
suppose like with also books, there's already a following to it.
Yeah.
And so because I think with stage and theatre, it has to be something by someone already well known or getting in someone famous to play a role to get people
Yeah.
to come in. So it's a much more smaller engagement in terms of people who are more actively going to the theatre because a lot of people are much more stuck to their screens. So
Yeah.
and with books now, you can get the audiobooks, you can get the books on your tablet or your phone, and you can easily read it. It's readily available. Whereas with the stage, you have to leave your house. And if it's winter, get out of your house and go out in the cold. But no, I like that when the National started doing also the screenings of plays,
Yes.
and people said, especially over lockdown, and one of the productions that I did managed to do that as well, like have a live stream of the show. That was good. That was good. So there's ways around it.
That
Oh,
you saw.
Salome.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was awesome. And I even got to see a friend of mine in Canada in a show online because
Wow.
it was live streamed and that was brilliant. So it can work. It can be made and changed and adapted. So there's that too.
Thank you, listeners, for tuning in.
Yes, we will see you
See you soon. Bye.
soon.